What I'd like to do before we start though is just check in and, we're a week in, how's it going? How are you feeling? And do you have any questions? So who'd like to start? Anybody? Okay, thanks, Lauren.
I'm feeling good. I don't have any questions per se. I guess sometimes with the sitting, I know that it can be very uncomfortable for me, especially if I have my legs crossed to try to sit up in a straight posture. So if you have any recommendations for that.
I do. Yeah, I think that's a great question and very common. And it looks like you got another pillow. I was going to suggest more height under your seat. And if your pillows are squishy, it might look like you have height. And then when you sit on it, you don't have so much height anymore. So another thing that can work well is like, I have these Mexican folded blankets and they're dense. And so a couple of these folded like this doesn't compress much. So a thickly woven dense blanket. And I'll talk a little bit more about sitting today. Thank you. What else? I might just sort of call on you, but if you don't have anything to say, you don't want to talk, then that's fine. Just wave me away. No problem. Yi Ying, do you have anything you'd like to say? Oh, you're good. Okay. Kip.
Yeah, the only thing I'd like to say, I tweaked my back a little bit last time, and I know what pose it was. It's when we're on our backs and we pull our knees up and then drop our knees to one side. I don't know what it is about the way I do that pose, but it's not the first time that I've tweaked my back doing it, and I really don't want to do that. So would welcome your suggestions or comments about how to make sure that I'm being gentle on my back when I try to do that twist.
Yes. So my suggestion for you to try is to keep your feet on the ground. So it will just make the twist a lot more gentle. So don't lift your legs, just keep your feet on the ground and let your knees fall like that. So we do that at the end of class. So my brain may have dissipated. I might not remember, but if you just unmute yourself and holler, then I'll you remind me to remind you. We'll work on that. Anything else? Comments, questions, nothing? Okay. Jasmine, anything?
I guess, do you have like a suggestion of like what a good class would be like in the next step, like that's offered at Square One? Like what a good next level, I guess, would be after this?
I mean, it just depends, but it's a very, very good question. It depends. Like I would say if what we're doing feels like an appropriate level of activity for you, then go with slow. And maybe try a moderate or two. If as we're doing this, you feel like this is nice, I'm learning a lot, but I could definitely do a lot more, then go to moderate. And then we don't have that many strong classes actually, but you could start, if you were curious about some other poses, maybe going upside down, that kind of thing, then go to a strong class. So it just really depends. And then the other thing I'll say about that is that the names are very arbitrary, and what matters more is the teacher. So you might find a teacher who calls her class slow and it feels more like a moderate. And you might find a teacher who calls her class moderate, but it feels slow. So my best suggestion is just to experiment. And now that we have all the recordings, you don't even have to commit. You could just like peek into 10 minutes of a recording and see if it's a class you'd want to go to live.
Cool. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, Minerva, you joined us. Do you have any questions or would you like to tell us how you're doing? I think she's there, but I'm not sure. I'm going to ask her to unmute and see if that helps. Minerva, are you there? Okay. Okay, thanks. Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, the slow mindful flow for beginners is a good place to be. Okay. Let's do some breathing, which is, as we go through all these practices, sometimes I forget, like, this is the most important part is the breath. And so we can say inhale, exhale all day long, and still, and still there's more. So let's come back. I think I'll move my mat a little bit closer so that you can see me better seated. Okay, so sitting, rule of thumb is that you want, well, just adjust a little bit so you can, my camera angle a little bit better here. Yeah. Okay, yeah, it's a little better. Ideally, sitting, you're going to have your knees lower than your hips. So right now, I think I said this on the day one. Right now, I don't really have that. My knees they're in line with the hips. It's not so bad. I can sit pretty straight here. But notice as my knees go up, my low back rounds. So more and more and more as my knee goes up. So ideally, you just keep stacking. I mean, I've been collecting yoga props for 15 years, so I have everything, but you might have to improvise a little bit. And then eventually, you'll get, so now my hips are a little higher than my knees. And then depending on the flexibility of your hips and your knees, you might be able to come into a little bit of a different pose where you're more tucking your feet underneath you, which might require less height. It does for me. And then my knees drop significantly. I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to adjust my angle one more time. Yeah, so instead of this traditional cross-legged, you could sort of slide your feet out a little bit. And then it's heel to ankle, and then slide forward on your pelvis and your knees will sink. But it just depends on your pelvis. Yeah, good. Okay. Yeah, so Lauren, I would say more height. All right, and also if just sitting cross-legged doesn't work for you, especially because we're going to be here a little bit doing this breath stuff, you can alternate. You can sit back on your heels. You can sit, if you have a block or a bolster or something, you could put the bolster in between your legs and sit back. You could sit in a chair. You can switch back and forth. I mean, meditation people, Buddhists are like, they like you to be uncomfortable. That's fine. That's just part of it, right? But that's not really for me. And I said this last time, I think I want this to be something I come back to over and over and over again. And I'm not going to if I'm in pain. So I want to find a way to sit so that I feel comfortable. Yeah, Lauren, I hope that's better. Okay, so we're going to do a few relatively simple breathing exercises. And I'll just give a little bit of like a taste of philosophy. I don't teach much philosophy because it is so old and deep and broad. I mean, there's just so much there. But I will say that traditionally we speak of there being 8 limbs of yoga, which is, in Sanskrit, we call that Ashtanga. And not to be confused with a school of yoga called Ashtanga, but Ashtanga means 8 limbs of yoga. And one of the limbs is asana, which are the postures that we do. So one of the limbs is what yoga class is typically about. 99% of yoga class is asana, which is one of the 8 limbs. Another of the 8 limbs is pranayama. Pranayama is breath work. It's breathing techniques. So I think the first day we learned Ujjayi pranayama, yeah, the ocean sounding breath. So that's one that you've already done. And we'll do a couple more. I think we'll do just some very simple sort of square breathing, and then we'll do some alternate nostril breathing. And then we'll let that go for the scope of this course. There's definitely more out there. And maybe we'll come back to a little bit on Wednesday at the end of class because there's some very soothing things we can do with the breath as well. So you're all seated. If you want to make any more adjustments to your posture, go ahead. I recommend closing your eyes for this if that feels comfortable, but if it doesn't, then take a soft gaze. And let's start by just really simply noticing our breath, not needing to change anything right now. So as you breathe in, notice that you're breathing in. And as you breathe out, notice that you're breathing out. We'll begin with some simple square breathing. So what we'll do is we will even out the inhalations and the exhalations, and we'll add a little bit of a pause at the top and the bottom of each breath. And I'll say as we go through all these practices, if you start to feel any tension, like in your chest or your throat, then you can let go of that technique for a moment, return to your normal breathing, and then join us when you feel relaxed. So we want to stay relaxed and at ease the whole time. So we'll do a 4-count breath to start. Let's exhale our breath completely. And then inhale to a count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath at the top. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. 2, 3, 4. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. 2, 3, 4. Exhale 2, 3, 4. Retain the breath. 2, 3, 4. Inhale 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. 2, 3, 4. Exhale 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. One more round. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. Exhale 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. Good. And then let go of the breath. Just come back to your normal, easy breathing rhythm. Maybe noticing if there's any change in the way that you're feeling. We're going to do that another time. This time we'll try a count of 6. If it felt like 4 was the right count for you, then stick with 4, no problem. Otherwise, join me and I'll do a 6 count. Let's all exhale together. And then inhale 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Retain the breath. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Retain 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Retain 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold your breath. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale, follow your own count, go for a count of 6. We'll do 3 or 4 more cycles. If you find, again, any tension as you go through the practice, then let it go and come to your normal, easy breathing. And then the next time that you've finished the holding of the breath after the exhale, that would complete the cycle. You can let go of it. And when that happens, return to your normal breathing. We'll stay there, just noticing the breath. Maybe noticing if there's any changes in the way that you're feeling. Okay. Let's try some alternate nostril breathing. So take your right hand and I'll put it so here so you can see. We're going to fold in the ring and the pinky fingers into the palm. And then the pointer finger and the middle finger and the thumb are going to modulate the breath and determine which nostril we're inhaling and exhaling out of. So not to worry, I'm going to talk you through all of this. It has a similar rhythm to the square breathing, except that we're going to be inhaling and exhaling through one nostril at a time, but we'll continue with the retentions. So your other hand, if you like, you can put it in this mudra where the thumb and the forefinger touch. This is called Chin Mudra. So if you like, thumb and forefinger touch, and you can rest the back of your hand on your thigh or your knee. So we've got a couple mudras here. When you're ready, let's exhale the breath completely. And then when you're ready to inhale, bring the thumb to the right nostril and inhale for 4 through the left nostril. Go 1, 2, 3, 4. Now close both nostrils, retain for 6, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll exhale for 8. Lift your thumb. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale right for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Close both nostrils, retain the breath for 6, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale left for 8, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale left 4, 2, 3, 4. Retain the breath for a count of 6. And exhale right for 8. Inhale right 4. Retain the breath. And then exhale left 8. Inhale left 4. Hold both nostrils, retain for 6. And then exhale right for 8. Inhale right for 4. This will be our final retention. Close both nostrils, hold the breath. And then exhale left for 8. And then release your hand and return to your normal breathing, noticing, again, any residue of the pranayama practice of this breath work. How is it landing for you in your body? Okay, and then when you're ready, go ahead and let your eyes open. And let's start with the asana practice now. So I think since we've been sitting a while, let's start on all fours. Take your time getting there. Grab yourself some padding if you need that for your knees. And then from all fours, we'll move into our cat and cow. So this might be a good time to come back to that Ujjayi pranayama, which just as a reminder is the ocean sounding breath. We breathe in and out through our nose with a little bit of closing off in the back of the throat to slow down the breath. So when you're ready, inhale, lift the chest and the sit bones. Exhale, gently push the floor away round through the spine. Continuing, really letting it be all about your breath this evening. Inhale, open up, lift the chest and the sit bones. And exhale, we'll round. A few more like this, inhaling. And exhaling. Okay, come back through a neutral spine. And then let's send the hips back towards the heels. Take a nice long extended child's pose. If your forehead does not easily touch the ground, then fold your hands and rest your forehead on the backs of your hands. And then I'll say, as I've been saying, that as we go through this, these 75 more minutes of practice or what we have, please feel free to go your own way or take care of yourself, do something else. Or if you're not sure what to do, but something that we're doing isn't working for you, then as always, please unmute yourself and give me a wave. Let me know. Okay, you can stay here, or if it's time for a little stretch, then slide your hands forward, tuck your toes, and come into downward facing dog. Hips up and back, an inverted V shape. You can pedal out your feet here. And then, like we did last time, we practiced a little bit with bending the knees and sending the sit bones up and back. So if that feels good to you, you can find a little curve in your low back that way. Bend your knees, send your sit bones up and back, and then press again through your hands. Maybe keeping your pelvis more or less there as you straighten the legs. Good. Relax your head and your neck. Your down dogs look great. Really, really nice. All right. Let's take a walk towards the top of the mat. Take your time. And we will end up in a standing forward fold, Uttanasana. Relax your head and your neck. If you like, you can cross your arms and let the weight of your arms sort of create some traction through the spine. Yeah, and some of you are already doing this. I like that swaying back and forth can feel really good. And also shaking the head, yes or no. Releasing through the neck. Okay. To come up, bring your hands to your outer hips, press through your feet, and on an inhalation, come on up. Readjusting my camera here. Take a pause there. Okay. All right. Let's do 3 half sun salutations. So coming to stand in Tadasana, just as a reminder, this is mountain pose. I prefer to have my feet hip width apart and my knees are more or less over the ankles. My hip points are more or less over my knees. You can kind of feel this in your own body. And then shoulders more or less over hips. I'm not at all tucking my tailbone. Instead, really just letting that be nice and neutral. And then the head's going to float over the shoulders. Relax the shoulders if you can. Feel a little release through the jaw and the tongue. And then checking in with the breath, maybe coming back to the ocean sounding breath if that's useful for you. On your next inhalation, arms come up and overhead. And as you exhale, come over your legs. Inhale, lift halfway up, fingertips to shins or thighs. Exhale, fold again. Inhale, feel the feet, sweep the arms up and overhead. Exhale, release the arms. Let's do 2 more. Inhale, arms come up and overhead. Exhale over your legs. Inhale, halfway up, look forward here, open the chest. Exhale, fold again. And then inhale, connected through the feet, bring the arms up and overhead. Exhale, release the arms. Last one. Inhale, arms come up and overhead. Exhale over your legs. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold again. Inhale, feel the feet, sweep the arms up and overhead. Exhale, release the arms. Let's do a couple of sun salutations with some low lunges. On your next inhalation, take your time. Arms come up and overhead. Exhale over your legs. Inhale, come halfway up, lengthen the spine. Exhale, fold and step the right foot back, knee down. Inhale, fingertips up, lift the chest, lift the front of the pelvis. Exhale, hands down. Let's inhale to plank. Just hold plank for a breath or 2. And then exhale, hips up and back, downward facing dog. Let's take 3 breaths here. Inhale. Exhale, 1. Inhale. Exhale, 2. Inhale. Exhale, 3. Inhale, right leg lifts. Exhale, step it forward between the hands. And if it doesn't quite make it, then you can grab hold of the ankle, bring it forward. Left knee drops. Inhale, fingertips up, lift the chest. Nice. Inhale here, lift the chest. Exhale, hands down. Inhale, straighten the back leg. Exhale, step forward, top of the mat. Inhale, press down through the feet, come all the way up to stand. Exhale, release the arms. We'll go again, adding on a little bit. Inhale, arms come up and overhead. Exhale over your legs. Inhale, lift halfway up. Look forward here. Exhale, fold, step the left foot back, knee down. Inhale, fingertips up, lift the chest. Good. Exhale, hands down. Inhale to plank. Exhale all the way to the ground. Hands under your shoulders, elbows towards each other, legs nice and grounded. Inhale, take a cobra pose. Let's hold it for a few breaths. And again, I'll say, let's draw the shoulders out of the ears and then elbows towards each other. Looks really good. Yeah, nice. Couple more breaths. And then a little bit, just see if you can imprint the way that your chest feels here. The collarbones are spread. The chest is open. We're going to do this and try to have this same action in a more challenging pose. So if you can remember how this feels, take a big inhale. And then exhale, tuck your toes, hips up and back, downward facing dog. For 3 breaths, we'll inhale. Exhale 1. Inhale. Exhale 2. Inhale. Exhale 3. Inhale, left foot lifts. Exhale, step it towards the top of the mat. Right knee comes down. Inhale, fingertips up, lift the chest, stay for a breath this time. And then exhale, hands come down. Inhale, straighten the back leg. Exhale, step forward. Inhale, feel the feet, sweep the arms up and overhead. Exhale, release the arms. Okay, I'd like to teach today Chaturanga, which is I think it's a very challenging pose, hard pose. It requires a lot of strength. And so if it's not working for you tonight, please use your knees, or, you can just kind of learn, plant a seed. It doesn't have to be done tonight. Certainly doesn't have to be done perfectly. Let's stand in Tadasana. So feet are hip width apart. And then bring your elbows into your sides and your hands flat. So the wrists are bent. And then a little bit, we're doing Cobra pose. So lift the chest just a little bit. And this is how we're going to be in Chaturanga. Notice that the shoulders are not dipped at all. The shoulders are over the elbows. They're in line with the hips. So just notice how this feels. We'll be doing it 90 degrees, different orientation to gravity in just a moment. Take a couple of breaths. Okay, and then let that go. Come to the top of your mat if you're not there already. And we'll continue with some sun salutations, but we're going to learn Chaturanga today. Inhale, arms come up and overhead. Exhale, fold over your legs. Inhale, come halfway up, and then exhale, step back to plank. Let's start on our knees. And then we're going to repeat that posture, paying really careful attention that the shoulders don't go beneath the elbows. So we're going to come forward so that the shoulders are forward of the wrists, and then bend the elbows into the ribs. Keep your collarbones spread. And then the shoulders should be over the elbows, not lower. And then from here, press through the hands, come into a high cobra. And exhale, hips up and back, downward facing dog. Take a few breaths here or in child's pose. Even on the knees, it's a hard pose and you don't have to go far. So take a deep breath or two, and then I want to talk just a little bit about the shoulder joint. Okay, so come to your knees. And I'll say my little shoulder joint thing, which is this. Our hip joint, the hip socket is quite deep. So the head of the femur bone is really in there. It's in a pretty safe position because it's surrounded by bone. The shoulder joint's not like that. The shoulder joint is very shallow. And then the head of the humerus bone, the head of our arm bone, is just there, and it's being held in there by a lot of connective tissue. So our hips are meant to hold weight, our shoulders not so much, which is why it's like this. So what happens when we're doing Chaturanga, if we're not careful, is that the humerus bone can sort of slide forward into that connective tissue. And it's one of these things that happens over time. After doing hundreds of Chaturangas, you might get some pain in the front of your shoulder joint. It's a rotator cuff pain. So Chaturanga it's not, I don't hate it. Let me be really clear. It's really good for certain things. For building strength, it's really good. If you're a person who wants to learn how to do arm balances, you've got to be able to do you have to be able to do Chaturanga before you can do an arm balance. But I'd say like 90% of people don't need to do arm balances. I think they can be very fun if you have a young and healthy body and you're looking for a challenge and you want your yoga practice to be kind of fun, and then yeah, there's nothing wrong with them, but most of us don't need to do that. But we do need to have healthy shoulders, because if we hurt our rotator cuff, it's not just going to hurt in yoga class, it's going to hurt as we go about our lives. So watch for a second. This is why I want to really emphasize this technique of coming forward, spreading the collarbones here. And then you don't have to go far. You could just go an inch or two like this. This is a perfectly good chaturanga. You could come so that the upper arms are parallel with the floor. What isn't helpful for your body, I'm going to demonstrate it just once so you can see. It's not going to like tear your rotator cuff, most likely doing it once, which is why I don't mind demonstrating it. It's a repetitive thing. And we do some classes, these strong classes, you know, it's like chaturanga, chaturanga, chaturanga. If you've been to a vinyasa class, you probably heard that. And so even like leaving out half of them might be a good idea. Okay, so enough talking. This is what I don't want you to do, is to come forward and collapse the shoulders down. Can you see this? Let me do it here. This collapsing of the shoulders below the elbows is not very healthy for your shoulder joint over time. So again, I'm just going to say the lowest that you want to go here is the upper arms parallel with the floor and in line with your elbows. Any questions about that? I'm not wanting to scare you away from the pose. I'm just wanting to give you the technique to keep the joint nice and safe and healthy. Okay, let's do it, just some chaturangas, and I want to watch. So come to your hands and knees. If you're not interested in chaturanga, just do plank pose. And then shift your weight forward. So the shoulders are over they're farther away than the elbows. And then bend your elbows into your rib cage. You don't have to go far. Don't let the shoulders dip below the elbows. Good. All right. And then press through the hands, come into a cobra pose. And then exhale back, child's pose or down dog. That looks good, y'all. I cannot, Jasmine, see your shoulders. Yeah, Jasmine and Kip, I can't see your shoulders. So if you want me to, just scooch back a little bit. If you don't care, that's all right too. Yi Ying and Lauren, your shoulders look good. All right. You want to do it again. And then if you don't want to have your knees down, if you're feeling strong here, I'll demonstrate it with the knees up. Plank, same thing, come forward, lower. Shoulders not lower than elbows. And here you can inhale right into up dog because your thighs are already off the ground, and exhale back to down dog. It also works to just come a little bit. I don't have to go all the way. Another tip, engage your core. So, you know, any kind of push-up, if I'm loose in the belly, is going to be hard. If I really engage my core and I'm using the core to hold my upper body and my pelvis, then it's going to be much easier on the arms. Any questions? Is this kind of making sense?
Sorry to make you work, but would you mind like just doing it a couple times how you normally do it so I can just see your motion, like how it would flow?
Absolutely, yeah. So let's see, we'd usually step back into plank and then I'd come forward. So look at my feet here. My feet come forward to shift my whole body forward. My elbows bend. And then on an inhalation, I'll come to up dog and exhale back to down dog. Let me do it. Let's see if I can get the angle right. Yeah, from this direction. So, and this is what I was saying about cobra pose. We're going to come forward and lower, spread the collarbone. So there's a cobra pose happening. Whew, it gets hard to hold. There's a cobra pose. I'm not doing cobra pose in chaturanga, but the chest is open, the collarbones are spread. Was that helpful? Okay, so the flow, one more time. Plank, chaturanga, up dog, down dog. And we'll do some sun salutations where I'm calling that out. If you don't want to do chaturanga, I think a really great option is to hold plank. So that would look like, you know, you step back to plank in your sun salutation, hold plank. Maybe you inhale for the back bend and exhale for down dog. Or just go straight back to down dog. So there's lots of different ways to play around with it. Okay, do you want to practice one or two more and then we'll get into a little flow? All right, so let's meet in plank, with or without knees. Good. And then inhale, shift your body forward from your feet, come forward. Exhale, bend your elbows in, spread your collarbones. Nice. Inhale, cobra or upward facing dog. Flip your feet over. Exhale, hips up and back, downward facing dog. Looks good. Let's take 3 or 4 breaths, rest. Maybe you come to child's pose or stay in down dog. All right. And then when you're ready, take a walk to the top of the mat. Take your time. And then really grounding through the feet, inhale, come all the way up. Exhale, release the arms. We're going to do some classic sun salutation A's. And I'll say too, just so you know, the Sanskrit for sun salutation, Surya Namaskar. Surya means sun. And then like we say, namaste, it's a greeting. Namaskar, we're greeting the sun. So at the top of your mat, hands to prayer. Inhale, arms come up and overhead. Exhale over your legs. Inhale, come halfway up. Exhale, make your way to plank. You could also take a little hop. Inhale and plank. Exhale, chaturanga. Come forward, squeeze your elbows in, spread your collarbones. Inhale, upward facing dog or high cobra. Exhale, hips up and back, downward facing dog. Nice. Let's stay for 5 breaths. Inhale. Exhale, 1. Inhale. Exhale, 2. Inhale. Exhale, 3. Inhale. Exhale, 4. Inhale. Exhale, 5. Inhale, bend your knees, look forward. Exhale, walk or hop towards the top of your mat. Inhale, come halfway up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, feel the feet sweep the arms up and overhead. Exhale, release the arms. So I'd say that's a sun salutation you're most likely to see in a moderate or even a strong class. So if it feels strong, it's because it is. Let's do 2 more, and you can certainly modify. So I'll offer some modifications as we go. Inhale, arms come up and overhead. Exhale over your legs. Inhale, come halfway up. Exhale, plank pose. You can walk, you can hop. Maybe the knees come down and you go all the way to the floor, or rock forward, bend the elbows in, chaturanga. Inhale for your back bend, cobra or upward facing dog. Exhale, hips up and back, downward facing dog. Let's do 5 breaths again. I'll let you have them in quiet. You can also come to child's pose. Inhale, bend your knees, look forward. Exhale, walk or take a hop, come to the top of your mat. Inhale, come halfway up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, feel the feet sweep the arms up and overhead. Exhale, release the arms. 1 more. Inhale, arms come up and overhead. Exhale over your legs. Inhale, come halfway up. Exhale, step back or take a little hop, plank. Inhale and plank. Exhale, chaturanga. Inhale, up dog or high cobra. Exhale, hips up and back, downward facing dog. All right, looks great. 5 breaths here, or maybe child's pose. Inhale, bend your knees, look forward. Exhale, walk or hop top of the mat. Nice. Inhale, come halfway up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, come all the way back up. Exhale, release the arms. Let's take a pause here. Find your feet underneath you. Tadasana, maybe checking out your alignment. So little mental checklist is we want probably 60 or 70% of our weight in our heels, but not so much that the toes get light. And then find your knees over your ankles and your hips over your heels. Shoulders relax down the back in the direction of the hips. And then the head is light, floating over your shoulders. Take 3 or 4 breaths. All right, looks good. Let your eyes open. Let's do some balance work. So we'll start with tree pose. Let's shift the weight into one foot and bring the other foot into tree pose, either the sole of the foot into the thigh, sole of the foot into the calf, or toes touching ground, whatever feels good to you. Yeah, and I like this, having the chair nearby, I think is really nice. Good idea. And then the thigh into the foot. Your version, come to some tree pose that you enjoy, that feels good. Slippery pants are normal. No, if you find that your foot slips, totally normal. All right. Good. Let's bring that knee out front, hands to hips. And then we'll slide the hand down the shin until you have the ankle or the foot. Drop the knees towards each other. You could stay right here. Maybe the arm comes up, or maybe you push the foot into the hand and find a little bit more of this dancer pose. But not needing to go there. Yeah, I like a lot of you are staying upright. Feels good to me. All right, release the foot. We'll do one more balance pose here. We'll go back to Garudasana Eagle pose. I think we did this last week. So crossing that leg over the other leg like you're sitting in a chair, and then also the hips go back. You could stay here. If the balance is an issue, put the toe down to give a little support. Yeah, if it reaches. And then inhale the arms to a T. Notice which leg you have on top. Sweep that arm along the bottom. Either giving yourself a nice hug or forearms come together, maybe the palms touch. Whatever you decide here, spread the shoulder blades away from each other. If you're feeling steady, then you can round through your spine and bring the elbows towards the knees. All right, feels good to me. Let's inhale, come back up, release the legs, release the arms. Step the feet a little bit wider than hip distance. Toes out, heels in, hands to hips. We'll make hip circles. And then change the direction. All right, let's do that on the second side. So coming back so that you're feeling balanced on your feet. Shift the weight into the other one, the one you didn't just do, and find your tree pose. Nice. And then my only alignment tip here is to bring the standing leg into the foot so that we're more or less, we're straight upright and we're not hanging out in the hip joint. Better to hang out in the hip joint than the shoulder joint, but still. Take a couple of breaths. And then let's bring the knee out front. You can release your hands down. We'll take that same side hand, slide it down the shin until you have the ankle or the foot. And then same thing here with the dancer pose. Yeah, nice kip with the strap. I like that. Couple more breaths. All right. One more if you want it, or you don't have to. Everything's optional. Bring the knee out front if you're joining me, and we're going to cross the legs and sit back. Maybe opting to have that toe touch down for a little extra support, and then arms lift. The leg that's on top, bring that side arm underneath the other arm. Either taking the hugging yourself, or forearms to touch, maybe palms. And you can stay here, or if you like the sensation of really bringing everything into the center, rounding the spine, feel free. Okay. And then we'll inhale and come on up. Release the legs, release the arms. We're going to do a little bit of a shakeout with the dynamic twist. So like our hip circles, my feet are wide, my toes are out, my arms are floppy. And then as I twist, I'm coming up onto that opposite toe. So we really want to keep the knee in line with the ankle there. All right, and then beginning to slow that down. Bring your feet underneath you, take a pause. Just feel your body and the residue of the practice so far. How are you feeling? Okay, and then let your eyes open. So last week we did a lot of warrior two, right? So we're going to do some poses from a different hip position for warrior one. So I'm going to come to the back of my mat and I'm going to step 1 foot, big stride. We don't want to be so far apart with the feet that we feel off balance. And then the other thing about the feet in warrior one is to be train track, not tightrope. So not tightrope, have your feet with some distance in between them so that we can be steady here. And then I keep looking at the camera, so my hips are turning towards you guys. But really what we want is we want the hip points to point. They're not going to point directly forward because this leg's back. That's the pelvis is attached to the leg. So we're not going to get the headlights like you hear, but more or less, yes, the hips are pointed forward. Yeah, so your back hip, just see, without tugging or tweaking or doing too much force, but bring it forward a little bit. Yeah, all right. Inhale, lift your arms up. Exhale, bend your front knee. Good. And then notice that you feel weight in your back leg. It's a little easy to feel weight in the front leg for most of us. Find weight in the back leg as well. And then the knee, if it's comfortable, is going to be bent so that the shin bone is more or less vertical. Mine, I can see it's not exactly vertical, but we want a pretty deep bend there. And then lift the chest here. Let's bring our hands to our hip points. And notice that they tend to tip forward a bit. So we're going to lift the hip points just a little bit here. And this will help, again, to bring weight into the back leg, which we want. Bring the arms back up, lift the chest. Virabhadrasana 1, warrior one. Take a couple more deep breaths. All right. Interlace the fingers behind your back. Inhale, lift the chest, and any amount, drop the knuckles towards the floor. And then as you exhale, we're going to come forward, maybe rounding the spine or maybe resting the side of your body on your leg. The hands can come up any amount. If the balance is tricky here, don't go all the way. Instead, look at a point on the mat that's not moving. Humble warrior. Take a couple more breaths. Looks really good. All right. And then feel your feet and inhale, come back. Find warrior one more time. And then you can stay here, or for a little bit of a challenge, we'll try warrior three. So if you're going to come into warrior three with me, kick the back heel up. And now it becomes much easier for the hips to face forward, right? And then let's start with our hands on our hips. We're going to kick off a little bit with that back foot and begin to shift the weight over the front foot. And then you might stay right here with just the back foot lifted a little bit, or you're coming in and out of it. Or really flex the ankle, push up through the inner thigh, and bring the torso more or less parallel with the earth. You can have your hands to prayer back behind you. Maybe here, remembering cobra pose, how we had that opening through the chest, the spreading of the collarbones. See if you can find that here. Take a couple of deep breaths if you're still feeling like this is beneficial. All right, and then we'll take a slow step back, meet up in warrior one, lift the chest. Exhale, release the arms, step the feet together, and switch sides. So a long stride, not nearly as long as warrior two, but longish. And then as a reminder, make sure you're steady so that your feet are more like railroad tracks, some space. Inhale, lift the arms. Exhale, bend the front knee. And then see, are you pitched forward? Can you feel your back heel grounding? So there's really weight in that back leg. Let's try, we can experiment a little bit with bringing the hands to the hip points, your fingertips on your hip points, and then see if you can lift them up a little bit. And you might get a nice stretch through that thigh. And then release the arms again upwards, lift the chest. Keep your gaze straight ahead. Let's take 3 or 4 breaths here. And bringing the hands behind the back. Inhale, lift the chest. Exhale, come forward, humble warrior. Maybe you can let the spine round, or maybe it feels better to stay a little bit upright. If you can let the spine round and your head relax and it feels steady, go ahead and do that. Okay. And then with strong legs and the feet firmly connected to the earth, make your way back up to warrior one. Establish your warrior one. And then you can decide whether to stay here or do the standing balance, warrior three. If you're coming with me, then kick up that back heel. And then a little bit of a lift through the back leg as we shift the weight of the pelvis over the front foot. You could stay right here. I'm going to have to back up so that I don't hit the wall. If you want to go a little farther into the pose, your balance is steady, then flex the ankle, lift up through the inner thigh, and tip your torso forward. You can decide on your arm variation. Maybe the hands stay in prayer, maybe they come back behind you. And then find that cobra pose, spreading the collarbones, a little lift through the chest. Looks nice, y'all. Good. If you're still enjoying this, take a couple more breaths. And then when you're ready, we're going to slowly step back, come into warrior one, really be there, establish that. And then inhale, straighten the front leg. Exhale, release the arms. Good. Step your feet together. Take a couple deep breaths. Feel your body. Notice your breath. Okay, let your eyes open. And then I think we'll cycle through the warrior two sequence one more time just to keep it fresh. I know we did that a lot last week, but some repetition here. So take a nice long stance. And let's be on the same side here. So turn your right toes out. take your left heel and kick it back a couple of inches. Inhale, lift the arms. Exhale, bend the right knee over the little toe side of the foot. Yeah, and then notice if you're pitched forward. So just like in Warrior One that we just did, we want to bring some weight into the back leg. So maybe can you feel your shoulders over your hips? That's what you want. And then the gaze is over the right middle finger. Take a couple of breaths. Virabhadrasana 2. Warrior 2. Turn the right palm up. Reach the fingertips up towards the ceiling. Get a nice long side stretch. Inhale. And then exhale, we're going to come forward, elbow to knee. The left arm extends over the ear. So you might notice that there's not exactly a line, nothing is particularly straight in the body, but there's more or less a line, a feeling of energy flowing from the outer edge of the left foot through the left fingertips. Roll the right shoulder out of the ear. All right, and then let's inhale, come back to Warrior 2. Straighten the front leg. Inhale here. Exhale, roll the pelvis over the heads of the femur bone for triangle pose. Good. It may be that you have stood on one foot enough tonight. If you want to go one more Ardha Chandrasana half moon pose with me, then let's do it just for a couple breaths. We're going to look forward of the right foot about 2 feet. And then same thing with the left foot. We're going to push and bring the weight of the pelvis over the front foot. Fingertips come to the floor. The left leg is really engaged. Push the thigh bone back. Flex the ankle. Maybe the left fingertips reach up towards the ceiling. All right. And then nice. Good. We've done a lot of that kind of work today. So we'll come back pretty quick. Let's meet up in Warrior 2. Everybody be in Warrior 2 for a beat. And then inhale, straighten the front leg. Exhale, release the arms. And switch. So now the left toes are pointed out. The right heel is kicked out. Yeah, and I see somebody getting a block. So I'm just going to say Ardha Chandrasana is a lot easier with a block. I've gotten used to teaching without props for the most part because I don't know if people have props. But if you have a block and you're doing half moon pose, that standing balance, go ahead and get it. Maybe you bring it up towards the top of your mat. We'll use it on this side. Okay, so back here. Inhale, lift your arms. Exhale, bend your left knee. See that it's going to the little toe side of the foot. See if you can feel your shoulders over your hips, your head right over your shoulders. Gaze over the left middle finger. And then turn your left palm up. Reach the fingertips towards the ceiling and then come into a side stretch there, stretching the left ribs, side of the body. Inhale. And then we'll exhale, side angle pose, elbow to knee. And then the right arm stretches over the ear. And you might feel everything connected from the right fingertips to the outer edge of the right foot. Inhale, come back to Warrior 2. Exhale, be here. Inhale, straighten the front leg. Exhale, roll the pelvis over the heads of the femur bone. Come into triangle pose. And take a few breaths. This is another place, if you've got that block, it'd be really nice to put it behind your shin and use the block. For me, props are so 2019. I've just gotten used to not using them, but now that I'm using one, it feels so good. Okay, you can stay right here. This is a really good place to stay for a few more breaths, or if you want to do standing balance, Then take your block with you. Look forward about 2 or 3 feet. Begin to shift your weight over the front foot. The block comes right under your shoulder, if you have one, or your hand. And then flex the ankle, push the thigh back. Maybe your right fingertips reach up towards the ceiling. Maybe you're falling in and out of the pose. See if you can have fun. Last breath or 2. And then we will meet in warrior 2. Take your time. Come on back. Establish your pose, really be there for a moment. And then inhale, straighten the front leg. Exhale, release the arms. Let's step the feet together, take a couple of breaths, feel your body, feel your breath. How are you doing right now? Okay. Let's do one more pose. We're just going to stretch the inner thighs a little bit. So take your feet nice and wide. And I like for my feet to be parallel. That's the traditional instruction. If it feels a little bit better for you to have your toes out, it's okay. You might play around with that at home, or you're at home now on your own. Let's bring our hands to our hips. Roll your shoulders back, lift your chest up, inhale. And then exhale, again, it's the pelvis is rotating over the heads of the femur bone as we come forward. And then your hands can come underneath your shoulders if they reach the floor. Yeah, it looks like everyone here is reaching the floor. If you still have some room to go, then walk your hands back. Perhaps the fingertips come in line with the toe tips, but in that direction. They don't need to get there by any means. Wherever you land, relax your head and your neck. Just let it all go. Relax your jaw and your tongue. Okay. Inhale, come halfway up. Exhale, be here. And then feel your feet, bring your hands to your hips, and inhale, come all the way back up to stand. Then let's heel toe and step the feet together. All right, let's come down to kneeling. We took some questions when we were doing the sun salutations and the chaturanga. And I just want to say that today's practice, like if you're not into chaturanga, it's fine. You know, I just want to introduce it so those of you who do want to go to the strong classes, you know what to do and how to do it safely. But a lot of classes, you'll never see chaturanga. So any questions, anything about the standing poses, the balances that we've done? Anything bothering you in your body? Okay, fair enough. I think we'll do Ustrasana camel pose today. So I'm turning sideways so you can see we're going to come up to kneeling. I say tuck your toes to start. We'll see how it goes. We're going to do half Ustrasana. And then if we want to, those of us who feel comfortable, we'll do the whole thing. But here, like last week, I don't remember who, but somebody said they got some low pain when we were doing the low back pain. So just notice I have a real tendency, like I have a big old arch. So especially if you're like me and you tend to be a little bit like this, but all of us, we're going to drop a little bit the sit bones. And another way of saying dropping the sit bones is, remember the hip points. We did this in Warrior 1, I think. Lift the hip points up. So we're a little bit getting out of that curve in the low back. This is where the spine curves most easily. So when we go into back bends, the spine is going to want to bend a lot there, which can be too much. So really dropping the flesh of the buttocks, lifting the hip points. Inhale, bring your arms up and overhead. And then exhale, let's just drop one hand down to the heel. Pause here for a couple of breaths. You can take the other side of the ribs and open it up a bit so that the shoulders are coming a little bit more in line with each other. Check in again with your low back. You need to drop a little bit the sit bones, lift the hip points to get out of your low back. If so, do it. And then push through the feet. Inhale, come on back up. Let's sit back on the heels just for a breath before we do the other side. Might notice it happens for me when I do these back bends, my heart just really starts beating. These back bends are really enlivening and energizing. So if you need a pick-me-up in the day, go for a back bend. Let's come back to kneeling. Tuck the toes. Second side here. Before we start though, check your pelvis, especially if you have those low back issues. Can you drop a little bit through the sit bones, lift the hip points up a bit before we start? And then inhale, arms come up. Exhale, we'll drop the other hand towards the heel. And then the opposite side rib cage, maybe you can drop that a bit too, so the shoulders are in line-ish, in the direction of. Good. And then press through the feet and the knees, come all the way back up. Sit back on your heels. Take a couple of breaths. Okay, we're going to do a few more and we're going to take it in stages. So if you get to a point where you feel like this is as far as I want to go, this is the edge, then keep repeating that pose, even though I'm progressing on with other people. So pay attention to what works for you, and we're not going to go too far. It's really easy to go deep in this back bend. And we've got gravity also. A lot of back bends, we're pushing against gravity to come into the back bend. This one, gravity is going in the direction of the back bend, so it's easy to go a little too far. So round two, we're going to bring our hands to the sacrum. Fingertips are pointing towards the inner knees. And this can help to remind us to drop a little bit back there. Roll the shoulders back, lift the chest. And then send the hips forward, continue to bring the elbows towards each other, lift the chest. Go any amount, might be gentle. Take a couple of breaths. Looks nice. Good. And then really feeling the ground beneath you, inhale and come up. Sit back on your heels. And then while you're resting, I'll just say, I really find myself saying that a lot when we're coming up from poses to get grounded through your feet, because there's this rebound action, right? We need a steady base in order to be able to come up. So we really want to, in order to go up anywhere, we need to root down. So a way to feel that actually is from kneeling, push your shins really firmly into the ground. Keep pushing your shins, and you'll find your hips just lift. They just do. It's these complementary actions in the body, probably in the entire universe. All right, taking it a step further. If that last pose was it for you, then stay there. Tuck my toes. And then inhale, lift the chest. Hips come forward, drop the flesh of the buttocks. And then you can decide, do you want to try to drop your hands towards your heels? Does that work for you? Once you arrive at the end of your pose, roll the shoulders back, bring the shoulder blades into your upper ribs. If you're in this pose with your hands on your heels, you might consider dropping your head if it feels okay in your neck. Take a couple of breaths. And then finding that rebound, ground through your feet to come up and sit back. Take a couple of breaths. One more. If you've had enough, just sit here and close your eyes and take some breaths. If you want to go again, then let's try this again with this rooting down through the shins. Root, and then just the hips just lift. It becomes a lot harder, right? This kind of floating up, but it feels, I like the way it feels. Okay, deeper back bend would be to have your feet flat. And I feel like I'm going plenty deep enough into my low back with the toes tucked. So I'm going to stay with my toes tucked. If you have room to go and you want to put the feet flat, be my guest. Let's start with the hands on the hips. And as a reminder, we're going to drop the sit bones and lift the hip points. As we come back, roll the shoulders back, draw the elbows towards each other. And then decide where you want to go here. Do you want to try dropping one or both hands to the heels? If you do, and actually no matter where you are, Let's roll those shoulder blades into the upper ribs to lift the chest up. And then maybe you drop the head back. Nice. Okay, again, to come up, we're going to press through the feet and the knees. And then everybody, let's sit back on the heels. Just keep a neutral spine for a moment. Don't fold forward. Feel your body. Feel your breath. You might feel a little residual opening through the chest and the heart. Okay. And then go ahead and let your eyes open. If you want to grab a little bit of something to sit on, we're going to do a couple of seated poses. I think I'll get myself a blanket. All right, we're going to start with a twist. So let's take, I'm not going to do right and left. For some reason on Zoom, I get even more confused than ever with right and left. Take one leg and bring the foot over the knee. The other, the one on the ground, that leg, it can be bent like mine is, or it can be straight. So you decide what feels more comfortable. I think tonight, actually, I'll keep mine straight. Yeah, so the top foot comes to the other side of the knee. Okay. And then now I'm wishing I'd done right and left because it's just, let's bring your feet back. I'm just going to do right and left. Sorry for all the confusion. Pick up your right leg. I'm going to be a mirror. Cross it over the left leg, sole of the foot to the floor. And then you can decide with your left leg, do you want it straight or do you want to bend it? And a good indication, if you bend it and then that hip pops up a lot, I suggest go straight. Okay, here we go. Inhale, lift the arms, get long through the spine. Exhale, twist to your right. We'll bring the right hand behind the back and the left elbow outside of the knee. If it doesn't easily get outside of the knee, then just give yourself a little hug. Hug your knee in. Roll the shoulders down the back and lift the chest. Inhale. Exhale, ease into the twist, maybe looking over your back shoulder. Take a couple of deep breaths. Last breath, let's look over the front shoulder, a little bit of a counter stretch. Inhale, and then exhale, release. Switch the legs. So now the left foot is crossing over the right. You can decide what you want to do with the bottom leg, just like the other side. Looks good, everybody. Inhale, lift the arms. Exhale, bring the left hand behind your back and the right elbow either outside of the knee or give yourself a hug. Everybody roll your shoulders down your back. Inhale, lengthen the spine. And then on an exhalation, really easy and soft, ease into the twist. All right, inhale and then exhale, release. So I'm pretty sure I'm realizing my Sanskrit's getting a little rusty. That's, I believe, Marichyasana C is the name of that pose, which is, he's a god. It's the pose dedicated to the god. Yeah, I'm going to stop there. You can take Sanskrit with another teacher. Okay, Baddha Konasana, that one I know. Soles of feet together, knees wide. Let's roll the shoulders back, hands at the ankles. Inhale, lengthen the spine. And then exhale, you come forward any amount. It might not look like much, it's totally fine. Some of you will like really lay your belly on the floor. That's fine too. Wherever you are, let's see if we can get a little tuck through the chin, back of the neck is long. And let's just soften the breath here and maybe relax the lower jaw and the tongue. Relax the skin of the forehead. All right, and then inhale and come on back up. We've done a lot today. Let's come on to our backs and we'll just do a couple little finishing poses and then Shavasana. So as we're coming down, if you know that you're going to want a blanket or socks or a pillow, layers, or you're going to want to dim the lights, go ahead and do that now. And I think that last time I talked about Shavasana a lot, didn't I? I said you could put something under your knees, blanket under your head. So feel free to do that. We're not going to be in Shavasana as long as we were last week. So, you know, enough to be comfortable, but you don't have to worry that we're going to sit here for half the night or anything. Let's go ahead and lie back. Legs apart, arms apart. Toes flop out to the sides. Any adjustments that you need. And I said we were going to do finishing poses, and then I just started talking about Shavasana, and here we are in Shavasana. So we're just going to do Shavasana. It's all good. We've done enough. If there's something your body is craving, then always you can do that. Good. Nice. We'll do a short body scan. So as I say the various parts of the body, you can feel sensation. You might even feel a little sense of relaxation through the part as I name it. Maybe. We'll see. We'll begin by feeling all 10 of the feet. Excuse me, all 10 of the toes. And 2 of the feet. Let's feel 2 arches, 2 soles of feet. Feel your heels touching the ground. And then bring the awareness over the ankles into the lower legs. Feel your knees and your thighs. Your hips. Feel your belly. Notice your shoulders, your upper arms, soft side of your elbows, wrists. Feel the back of your hands touching the ground. And feel all 10 of your fingers. We'll bring the awareness up the arms now into the neck and the throat. Feel your lower jaw, tongue, back of the head touching the ground. And feel the crown of your head. And then for the next few minutes, we'll let go of the need to do anything at all. To have even the awareness be anywhere in particular, or the breath to be anything in particular. It's really letting it all go. Shavasana. begin to bring your awareness back into your body, back to your breath. Make any adjustments that would feel good. Maybe that's running the thumbs over the tips of the fingers. Maybe circles with your wrists and ankles. And then when you're ready, bend the knees one at a time and bring the soles of the feet to the floor. Take your time as you roll to one side. Pause there, take a couple of breaths, really. Be in no rush. And then I invite you to keep your eyes closed just for another minute or so. Use your hands to push yourself up to sit. And if you like, fold the hands together at the center of the heart. And let's take one last scan of the body together. How are you feeling now? What's the residue of this practice in your body and your thoughts and your emotions? And the overall feeling tone of your body. And now let's bring to mind everything that made it possible to come and practice this evening. So I'm beginning lately with the most elemental of things, the sun, the energy of the sun, the gift of the food and the vegetables that grow from the sun, and all of this that supports all the people, the really large, almost infinite web of people who support us. We don't even know, nameless people who pick our produce and stock it in the grocery stores. And then the people who are closer to us, our family, our friends, who are there and help us along the path. May our practice be of benefit to the world. As you inhale, lift the chest into the thumbs. As you exhale, surrender the head to the heart. Inhale, lift the chin, release the palms, and allow the eyes to open. Thanks, everyone. One more class together. And I don't have any, I'll just do what comes to mind. So if you have any questions, or if there's a pose that you're just really curious about, then make a note, drop me an email. I think you have my email, but just in case, drop it in here. Yeah, especially if there's a pose that, a pose you'd like to know more about. I think I've covered most of the ones that you see the most often, but you know what? Who knows? My brain, you never know. So I hope that you all have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you again on Wednesday. Good night. Bye-bye.